We're not officially on the agenda, so I mean, if you want to close and we can just have a general discussion, it's up to you.
We've got a standing slot on the agenda for drainage claims and repairs.
Okay, we'll talk. First of all,
we won't be taking any action.
Okay. 2 and 51, basically to follow up, we did just make a quick run out there, take a look at this lower end. Obviously from the plans, they did clean out this lower end. It wasn't originally in the district. His property, this individual's property was not originally in the district, but when the open ditch was done there in the 90s, they annexed his property. Actually, it's his wife's property or whatever it came in, and they had to excavate that lower segment of the ditch to provide an outlet to the open ditch the rest of the way up. So on the
part of the cedar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pasture area across from Denison, also west of the Cedar Cemetery.
Yeah. If you look at the old grade line here, this is what used to be out there was a tile for 2 and 51, and they had a surface channel on the top of that. That outletted to the natural ditch that went out to the Big Cedar. Okay? Well, they came in and had to deepen this stretch by 4 feet, and then they cut, undercut tile.
They took the tile out.
Yeah. So,
What's the slope on it?
it's 0.16%. So we looked at it just visually, just from the road. And there's right at the very outlet, there is an area that there are some trees growing up close to the outlet that appear to be dead. We think the district has been spraying it because overall, except for right down there at the Big Cedar, there isn't any trees of any size to speak of along it. The plan showed that as a 700-foot extension from the original outlet of the district. So, he made it sound like that they weren't maintaining this. Well, from what it looks like, we must be spraying and maintaining it. And it goes down through his ground. It's pasture ground. It's pasture down there. It's not, does not appear to be CRP reserve ground.
I don't know this. He or the neighbor have used it for some pasture.
Did you see a slip?
Right there where those trees were, there's a small slip in there. That, just visually from the east-west road looking down, the ditch is good vegetated ditch and looks in good shape. We went to the west side of the property and drove in along the Cedar and looked up the channel, and that's the only thing we could see was that one little area. So, anything of significance there, we don't see anything of a huge significance.
But we don't, we need to support it and
Correct. What we're thinking we're going to have to do is a work order to pull those trees out of there and then do some riprap stabilization.
In the same ditch in Dennis Hennick's property across the gravel road to the south, where that ditch goes up. There's a beaver dam in that thing.
Yep, and that got pulled. Marty pulled that, unless it's a new one.
How long ago?
A month and a half.
Oh, I think it's been since that time that I saw it.
Okay. There may be another one in there. But
If you look from the gravel road and look to the southeast, there's something laying across there, and there's a ledge.
Okay, so that must be a new one, because the one we repaired was close to the, probably a quarter-mile fence that runs north of.
So you couldn't see it from the road?
No, you had to drive in and go
this one I can see from the road.
Okay, so it must be a new one.
So can you get, if we do that bank support, can you get somebody to pull that out?
I'm going to try to get Richards to do that. I don't know if he will.
This landowner was planning to hire Richards to do some other work on his property anyway, so it might be something that could be.
If Steve's not going to get there till fall, we might look for somebody else to
And I was concerned to see also if there was any, if this appeared to be CRP.
I don't believe it is. I guess we should have asked it, but I don't.
Well,
I don't think it's grazed.
this is grazed right up to the ditch that we saw.
Is it now?
Yeah.
Because there was a number of years that there weren't any animals on there, and now today he was indicating they are gonna.
Well, I
It's
mean,
a rotational grazing, and I don't know if he must have some other pasture somewhere online,
but I'm not worried about bird habitat, right, is what I'm getting at. We could go in there and do this work and then it shouldn't bother any issue about bird habitat. Okay, additionally on 251, in regard to the tile that's petition, we had that notification back from the NRCS that they had completed 11 determinations in Calhoun and 9 in Sac County. So we got most of the watershed is covered, but we only have people have only submitted determination. 3 landowners have submitted determinations.
and we got an add-on one here of Barbara Mobiles. Could be this property right here next to Allen's.
These are the only 3 per county.
Yeah, we've got hers, Allen's, Dennis, and Aaron's, which we get the.
So does that indicate that they're not done and they just haven't been forwarded, or they
What?
just haven't been forwarded?
The landowner did not specifically allow the NRCS to send them to us, they won't.
And I called out to talk with Bob Street today, and he said, as long as they sign over, we can access their records.
So what we're thinking we should probably do is follow now with another letter to the landowners requesting them to sign an authorization to release the determination to ourselves.
I just assumed that would happen. I didn't ask that.
Well, we put it in our original letter
To get them to us.
to give them to us or authorize the release or give them to us. That hasn't happened.
Well, but if they've gone forward to get the work done, the intention was there.
That's exactly. So, the other thing then that we would, so we get those, right now, the number of potential areas out there, or identified farm wetlands or whatever, is not on this property anything too significant. We do have a small one here in section 13, but it's actually across the way into what would be physically 86's boundary. It must be draining west to 86. So that would not be affected by what we would be doing up here in 251. So we need to get those. Then I think we need to actually move forward with an actual hearing and, full report and hearing. But, this is, we get the wetland determination, it's probably going to be, mid-winter type time frame that we would be able to put together and have a hearing, with the landowners.
We have a schedule and we have to submit to the schedule. I mean,
Okay, I just wanted to get the board updated where we think. I guess, as long as the board is supportive of the fact that we got most of the determinations there, sending another letter and getting them to release it to us, I mean, you guys are comfortable with us proceeding with that?
yeah, I think that was part of the intent of the day. I guess it wasn't identified specifically, but my thoughts were that if they did go ahead and get the work done, that they thought that was released. I think most folks really don't know that they hadn't been submitted.
Yeah, they won't let us get in anything.
They only, I was surprised they finally came around and said how many landowners. At first they told Greg that, they can't even tell you how many landowners signed up for a determination.
I called and didn't need names or anything. I just needed X amount out of X amount.
It took all the way up through Sioux City's area AC to be able to finally make that decision that they could release it.
She wanted all the work funneled through her. She didn't want the DC to contact me with any of the information. It had to be funneled back to her to get sent back out to me.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous working with them. Ron, had you put together any kind of an idea of cost before, or?
I haven't yet.
Okay. That would be the only pushing issue that we got in regard to, are we gonna go ahead and put a crossing across the road there in 28, while the construction.
I think, I think the board's position was it was financial. I mean, if they've got it tore up and we can lay that across the, I'm guessing for 1/3 the cost, while it's open, versus what it might be if you let them build the road and then have to bore. I think it becomes a
Yeah, I think we
financial.
really have to take a serious look at, we're getting ahead of but the yield is worth the risk.
So, when would you think you would be able to have a cost estimate put together for that?
Think about half.
I don't know,
We can do it
probably
for
a couple weeks.
job.
Yeah, got the time.
Do it.
But as far as elevation, you're looking at what, something maybe a foot below what's there?
Yeah. I don't think, the elevation's gonna probably control or dictate much in regard to, the cost. It's gonna basically be the difference between a direction, a bore or a open cut.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes very significant later, but as far as cost estimates, it really isn't at this time. I mean, certainly have to have the right depth later on when you're wanting to.
Right. We're gonna, if the board's gonna proceed, we're gonna do this, we're gonna have to nail down, the alignment, location, and elevation is gonna have to be hammered down tight enough to say, this is where the
what it
relief
is.
line's gonna go.
Yeah.
Now, one of Alan's proposals was to basically just kind of run up the, to the south and come across the road farther south into his property to get just across the road. But right now, we're thinking, the most sense still makes is for us to parallel the existing line. Because unless we're gonna totally, if we're going to consider the old tile not worth utilizing in size for the future without it, then we could go pretty much wherever we wanted to. But if we're going to use them in combination, and the investigation on the existing tile shows that the tile's in pretty good shape.
But what about the wetland consideration of hooking them together? Do you avoid any of that by not having them hooked together?
That all depends on positions, and Mary's property will be the one that would be the biggest issue in regard to.
Well, you see what I'm saying. If you stay out of that area and you're at the south, does that have any consequence on the wetland issue?
Again, if we take stuff off the flow upstream and increase the capacity available to downstream, the NRCS will still consider that an increased flow.
So then there really are no consequences of having it next to each other.
No, at this stage of the game, we don't see it. We would have to get a preliminary plan put together. Then the next step would be is the land, if we go to, we'll probably put a report and then have a hearing. And the landowners then would have to, if there isn't a remonstrance, the project would move to the stage of, we would then have to request the NRCS to do a scope and effect determination of the proposed project on any identified wetlands in ownership. The ones that would be identified as that we couldn't avoid or that we're going to do improved drainage to, then we would have to look at mitigation to.
Mitigation or throttle?
If there be a means of throttling, that would be a possibility, or the other alternative, if that landowner doesn't want to be throttled down, then the only choice we have is mitigation.
Which then really will make a significant difference. I don't even think the petitioner, if we go to a full-blown mitigation, that cost will...
But if we're only
Well,
talking 1 acre or 2 acres.
Right, but
I don't think there's going to be large numbers of acres.
Okay, all right.
Right now, out of this property, we got 8/10 of an acre identified out of
We
the
better
stuff
talk to
that's
our
in
council
here.
about going ahead with action for here.
As far as the crossing of the road, Colin is on the agenda next week, so...
We better talk to them.
Well, that's actually a secondary road situation.
That's going to be across the secondary road.
Yeah.
So it's not a district outlay.
Right.
Secondary roads would be gambling that, it was or wasn't going to go through.
So,
It's
yes,
not prejudicing the
I mean, it's a good question and a good discussion that we should have, but I was just thinking, that
But we're
becomes
in two
a...
different hats, I know that.
right. I guess what I'm saying, from the district side of things, you theoretically wouldn't be anything illegal against the drainage code in what you're doing. I mean, the secondary road would have the right
It's a
to...
crossing.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I guess, I mean, that's a really pretty good indicator so far, though.
At least to support, at least people willing to...
Well, the wetland thing that
Oh,
we're identifying.
yeah. So, we just want to touch base on that. Then the other aspect is DD 86, which is, we have done the survey.
Ivan, can I a couple
Sure.
comments on 251?
Okay.
The DOT is going to replace the existing main line across there.
That's correct.
And the decision to upsize that is all the DOTs, is that correct? Because typically when they replace them, they've been upsizing them one size.
Anything that was district facility had to be run through us. So if they changed grade, we looked at, they had to provide...
So has that crossing been run through you?
Through,
Your office.
on N28, no. But you already had reported that they were going to go up a size. In the routing, there wasn't any significant change in routing, so that we know that it will meet the capacity requirements already for basically that given crossing. If we were going to abandon that line and want to put, a half-inch coefficient on that line, then we would have to do an initial evaluation. But if
I guess the one approach I was going to talk to them about is if we're would install a second tile crossing in there, then to me it doesn't make any sense that they need to upsize the existing tile.
they have a standard policy wherever they cross the tile, that they have a standard policy, they go up one size.
Because I think what they're going to upsize it to would be, well, I guess I've never had anybody tell me for sure what size tile crosses the road there and where exactly it's at.
Well, we know that it changes, but which side of the road it changes
According to the map, it changes on the east side.
on the east side.
But the map you're talking about is the original establishment.
Right, that's the old,
Yeah.
that's the only one we have.
But,
It's
I mean,
Doesn't it, Greg, doesn't it go up just on the east side?
they don't,
Yeah, I believe it's just the east side.
they typically don't pre-design, so won't they open it up and then determine what size it is, and then they'll put in a bigger, one size bigger?
Yeah, and there's that tile end that ties in on the west side there that goes off northwest.
That little 8-inch.
Yeah. And I sort of wondered whether that wasn't where the tile size changed, but
Not by the picture, but that don't mean that's right.
Well, it would make sense that they would have probably held the larger tile across the road and then stair step down. Typically was what they would do. But it wouldn't, it ain't necessary that they absolutely had to do it. And
As far
with
as-
the 8-inch coming in there, they could have changed right there and went through for those smaller.
So if they're gonna,
Doesn't it downsize on the east side?
so if they're gonna
Yeah,
Like one
that
size?
It goes from a 20 to an 18.
north
Yeah.
and south of ways,
I don't know
See, why now?
exactly.
if they were
I'd
to
have
move
to
that
look at the
crossing
original profile.
north or south of ways, do you want, would the district want to be involved in that then?
Yes. They can't relocate without us knowing what they're
The
doing.
maps we were looking at.
Yeah.
We just assumed that they're going across in the same location, weren't they?
Well, nobody seems to know where it is for sure, so they try to take everything perpendicular across the north, whether they'll have a,
Well, I mean, if it was just a slight slant and they're going perpendicular, I mean, that's not a big problem. We just want to make sure that,
I was gonna try to meet them out there someday and see if they can.
I think we should put it on the agenda next week.
well, if they're going to do that for you, we'd like, it'd be nice to have Greg stop out too. Backward at 86. 86 on that district. This thing was originally. Let me bring that maps in. Here is 86's tile system. They came in and put this relief ditch in. They excavated on up here. They intercepted the tile here. They did not. They went over the tile here. On top of that tile, they put in an intake in the top. I'm assuming it was partially to act as a relief line so that if this tile was under pressure, that it could relieve to the surface in the ditch, push it out. But, like today, the majority of the flow coming down this ditch is actually going in here.
More like an intake than.
It's acting more as an intake. Plus, we got a blowout on this tile right now. The water's actually turning, going into the bank, entering the tile, and then going downstream.
How deep is it?
That ditch or the
Not that
tile?
pipe. That's
From the bottom of the ditch where it crosses about,
What?
It's
yeah,
not very-
there's flow.
pretty shallow, isn't it?
Yeah. It's,
There's
Dana
not much-
now there's some sediment, there's a half foot of sediment in there, but, yeah, I mean, it's, yeah. Now, why,
Is Dana from there or Greenman?
No, that's Wilson property. Herds come up from the.
Okay, I'm not, never mind.
well,
That's what mine.
Yeah.
you know, when this ditch was done, this was still a tile and a surface ditch here. And the grade on this 86 was 4/100ths grade from the outlet on upstream. Well, what we're finding today on this thing is when this, I don't know if the control structure across the end of 86 was not put in right away or not, but with the open ditch now, which deepened this whole system here, like 8 feet deep, there's two pipes at the outlet of 86 that dump the water from 86 into.
Because there's a driveway there.
Right. But this first stretch of the ditch actually has degraded and was cut down. If you look at our grade line here now, to the top of this, a half foot over the top of this tile, we got like 11/100ths grade instead of 4/100ths grade. Okay, so we go.
So why isn't the water going out of there?
Well,
I mean, if you've got,
I mean, like today, there was a small flow of water going out, but the majority of the water was going in here, going into this tile. So there's very little water coming down the ditch, and the little water that was coming down, there was probably, I don't know.
there's a couple different things. Where that tile exits in the open ditch, that pipe's laying down the water. It's collapsed clear down, it's almost submerged.
It is completely submerged.
Is it?
No, he's talking down here.
Oh, that
Yes.
one. No, I was talking this.
No,
one's
the one up
completely
there is half
It's
underwater.
snow load.
Yeah,
pushed
it's
it down.
just, it's
Bent down.
collapsed. And then,
Is it partially broke off?
It's collapsed. I haven't walked down the side of the ditch to know what,
So
but it's,
while you're out there looking.
it's with additional water, with the surface drain, if we put more water in that ditch for the surface drain, will there need to be a cap put on, especially on the front end of that, so it don't flood?
Meaning here?
There are surface drains going into the open ditch, and if we put significantly more water, are those gonna surface drain back onto this?
Oh, you mean,
All like backwater gates?
no.
Sure.
No, because the significant volume of water here, when you're taking a tile system and dumping it into this open ditch, you're talking about in the neighborhood of the base flows changing half a foot maybe or whatever.
Okay, I just, it's a question that I
Yeah.
had, and,
But I
but,
mean, the peak flows going on this ditch system are still the surface runoff waters that are getting there. We're not changing the
Okay.
surface runoffs.
the main tile up to that open ditch, that pipe, if you get an opportunity to look at that pipe, I think where the tile goes in, that there should be something done with that.
Oh, yeah, when we're looking on, this individual's property, we can take a look at that.
It's my
Now,
property.
back to this, where we intercept this tile here. When they did this ditch, they intercepted this tile just at the flow line of the tile. There's no clearance under that tile by this design grade line. So the original design was they intercepted the tile here, they went over it here, they cut this, there's a box, or not a box culvert, a big
Yeah,
concrete
42
culvert,
inch tube.
42-inch tube that comes under the road. This surface water all comes down this, but this 15-inch tile here coming under the road, which has an 18-inch tube or pipe on it, outlet pipe on it, is completely submerged underwater. Because this ditch only has, if you were looking at the low flow line, only averages maybe around a half foot of sediment in there. But there's a lot of vegetation growth in there, and the water is slowly migrating down through, and that is causing enough blockage that this tile flowing, and it's flowing, but it has back pressure on it from the fact that the water in the ditch is as high as...
So with that said, then, if you've already got more grade than the initial design, are we only gonna have to clean it from halfway out then to the south?
Well, no, because we also, downstream of this, we got another spot where there is blockage here that causes some, why the water is going in here, well, first of all, is the blowout, but I mean, the water is probably within an inch of the top of the intake on the top of this, and there's basically hardly anything flowing downstream because there's blockage downstream here that's holding up that water too. That blockage is partially just vegetation. There isn't enough base flow water to keep the ditch bottom open.
Yeah, it's a small watershed. I think
But
I know where
If
you're
you,
at.
if you replace, if you intercept the tile here, you can improve that situation. This ditch, 2 and 51s, has plenty of depth. We could come in here, lower the outlet of this, intercept the tile here. So, and you would have and come in a foot under grade of this one up here. So that you improve the outlet condition for this tile. You open this up, so you're gonna have a separate segment of tile that functions for whatever's served here. You would have this loop that,
That improves my drainage.
and that basically changes this.
Can't do it.
And this already is pretty much the same. Now, we're getting wetland determinations on all the other portions of the watershed. If we went this route, it would be considered an improvement. We would have to deepen the ditch by continuing to shift away from the road. Because the power poles sit on, basically the county road right away comes right to the top of the ditch, and the power poles are right there. but we could just continue deepening the ditch and shifting it east, and we'd have to acquire additional right-of-way along the east side to basically do that. Would we expect, with this improvement here, done, when it was done, when was the 86 done? Oh, should be,
Unless that's just redrawn.
I can't say. This is dated December 26, 1983. So 84, so this is before the 85 Farm Bill. But anyway, we could, this relieved pressure on this system. We wouldn't expect any wetlands here. There's surface drainage and tile drainage here. Over here, the majority of this ground still has surface drainage. I wouldn't expect any wetlands over here, except for, we know that across this boundary, there's 8/10 of an acre that shows up over here. Right in, right in this area. Next to,
It's not, yeah, because it's not in the north piece of Mary Holmberg's, because we just got that when it was clean.
It's right outside of
This
this
acreage.
farm place, yeah. It'd be right off his southwest corner.
right about in here. Okay? But that could be avoided, because that can be orifice. Any changes that we do, you know, wouldn't have to basically change the drainage condition to that. Okay, so, the thing is, what this boils down to is, do we want to study a repair and improvement option while we're going through? Where does the board's general feeling feel? Would it be worthwhile for us to look at the improvement? We wouldn't expect there should be much of a wetland issue here. And while we're doing this thing, to me, why they didn't intercept this tile in the first place, I don't really understand. But this would have been an open ditch at the time.
I own the
Yeah.
parcel that goes where the tower is across,
You own this over here?
where we were.
Up at the top.
Yeah. I own this piece.
Okay. Which, this would take all this drainage off of it. This drainage is off already because it comes down this, except where it's going into the tile right now. But when there's pressure on the system, that water's gonna go down the ditch.
That section still drains fairly decent.
This here?
In my piece.
Or yours?
Yeah.
Well, it should.
Well, yes and no. They're backfilling it, if it's coming through the ditch and filling the tile, I'm surprised it does.
Well, but like I said, you can't build much pressure there because it's gonna relieve itself back to the ditch. So, you know, they put any head on it to pressurize, which is gonna take away from you, theoretically, you
Very
know,
hard to do.
you only have a 1.5 foot maximum head above the tile to pressurize with. But I guess we were just, it's a different condition than I was expecting to find. And I guess I kind of wanted to know if you guys thought studying both a repair and improvement.
So how much additional cost is that going to put on this deal to study the improvement? I mean,
You mean on the 51?
on this
Yeah,
city,
86. You're probably looking at, I don't know, $3,000-4,000 extra costs involved in the engineering.
Does somebody in the district have to petition?
No.
well, they would for an improvement, if you're suggesting an improvement.
You are providing it as an option. At the hearing, you would basically spell out that we're evaluating both for repair and improvement. It does not have to specifically have a petition. You can consider an improvement without petition also for a district.
No, I guess that was always my understanding that it needed to be petitioned.
Code allows you to basically
The trustees can initiate.
initiate the evaluation of an improvement. it has to be identified at hearing, and the landowners in the notice process have to be given the rights of remonstrance. I'm just trying to get an idea of where you know the watershed better than we do.
I do, but I need to exclude myself from this because I'm a landowner.
But for the need, just the general, you're not approving anything. All we're just discussing is, would it make sense from the trustee side of it that we consider basically an improvement option while we're going through the report?
I think you two guys need to make that choice. I think I need to stay out of that. I think it's so
Well, I think
complex.
it's a good time to take care of the situation. The ditch, the new ditch can be deeper, more efficient than what's currently there. It's not really taking advantage of the deepening of the main artery, so, in the interest of maintaining or improving the drainage, and I think it's worthwhile.
In this outlet condition here, if we just clean the ditch, this outlet condition here is still not going to be a good condition. It's always going to be susceptible to, quick sedimentation that's always going to start putting back pressure on us because there's no clearance. The grade line's going to come in right at flow line of that tile.
It does, but you're increasing you're keeping your flow in the ditch if you cut that intake off.
This one here.
Yeah. I mean,
That's correct.
you're keeping your water in the
Okay.
open ditch. So
That's why we can't deepen this without basically intercepting the tile here. That's the only way we can really get deeper under this. Now, if we did a clean out, just a straight repair, we would go from the outlet grade of these two tubes here to basically the original grade above the tile here. And then we would just take the 40 or 400s grade up from there on up. But overall, if this was, the clean out was in,
we didn't know for sure.
okay, this was constructed in the 80s.
Constructed in the 80s. I don't know if there's been a clean out since then or not, I don't think.
So you're in the 30-year time frame on this thing, and realistically, you're probably never going to have a life cycle much more than that 30-year because of that shallow condition situation.
And there is no other tile running into this thing, so you aren't gonna have that constant flow of water.
This will help improve that so that you have more constant flow down the ditch, and probably help keep that bottom opened up. Okay. At this stage of the game, before we proceed with any kind of report, we just wanted to have some guidance, so if the board's guidance
I'll make
is,
a motion to include this,
we can't do a motion.
that's right, 'cause we'll put it on the
Just
agenda for next.
have them bring a report to the next meeting, and then you can.
That's right.
Can we just basically have the board, put it on the agenda for the board to take action on it?
Next week.
Right,
Next week. I mean, we don't have to come back down here.
No.
Okay.
We know what you're proposing.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'm adjourned. Mr. Adjourned. I'll second the motion.
You coming tonight?